Okay, so now we're moving to the fourth unit of our Karnataka history. Okay, so section one, we're moving to the fourth question. Okay, so whatever we've discussed so far will just be your three questions of our mains paper. Of the 21 questions, we've discussed about the three questions. Now we're moving ahead with the fourth question syllabus. Okay, so to start with our Vijayanagar Empire, we have to understand the chronology of it. Okay, so now we have given the chronology. I have given you the chronology of Indian history. So now Karnataka also has its same flow, right? So ancient Karnataka, medieval Karnataka, and modern Karnataka. Okay. So now from Kadambas to Hoysalas, whatever we have discussed. So Kadambas, when did we begin? Around 350. Yes, around 350 AD. When did we begin Kadambas of Banwasi? 345 to 540. Okay, so Kadamba started around 345 AD, right? Okay, good. So we started our ancient Karnataka history from our Kadambas of Banwasi. So somewhere around 345, 50 AD we started. Okay, so if that is what our ancient Karnataka is, from 345 to till where we have come, Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra, we came somewhere around. Okay, then we saw Gangas, we saw Badami, then we saw our Rashtrakutas, then again Chalukyas of Vatapi, and then Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra. So we've come fairly around our 1350s. Okay, so now that is our ancient Karnataka part. Okay, then comes our medieval Karnataka. So when we say medieval Karnataka, we have two important people in our Karnataka. One is Vijayanagar Empire, and the other one is our Bahmani Sultans. Okay, so that is what we are going to deal with in our fourth unit. Okay, we are going to deal with Vijayanagar Empire, Bahmani Sultans, and our Mysore Wadayars. Okay, so Mysore Wadayars again will date back to a very long time when our ancient kingdoms were there. But however, they came to the forefront of power at a very later date. Therefore, we are going to see them in the end of our medieval Karnataka plus modern Karnataka. I mean, from the beginning of our modern Karnataka. Okay, so now we have finished with our ancient Karnataka part. Now we are going to the medieval Karnataka. So this is our Vijayanagar and Bahmani kingdom. You see this in the map? Look at this. The green part, that is our Bahmani kingdom, and the down south part is Vijayanagar Empire. So actually this is a little exaggerated map because Vijayanagar did have other people also in the southern peninsula. Okay, so it does not mean that they were totally occupying this entire down south peninsula, but then you can roughly draw this as your Bahmani and Vijayanagar Empire. Okay, so who is this handsome king? Yeah. So Krishna Deva Raya, he is our Tuluva king. Okay. So this is the only prominent portrait that we get to know. I mean, that we get to see about our Krishna Deva Raya everywhere. So he's our Tuluva or important Vijayanagar king who brought in a lot of administrative reforms and welfare to Mysore state. Okay. So to begin with. Okay, so yeah, to begin with, we know some basic information about our Vijayanagar Empire. So that's what is given in this slide. That is, Vijayanagar Empire is also known as Karnataka Empire or the Kingdom of Besnagar or Bisnagar. So Kingdom of Besnagar is given by our travelers, which we will see a little later. Okay, so established in 1336 by Harihara the First and Bukkaraya brother. These two people are brothers, and they are sons of Sangama. Sangama would be another, local chieftain, and Sangama's children are Harihara and Bukka, and that is why the first dynasty of Vijayanagar Empire is known as Sangama Dynasty. Okay, so the four important dynasties that ruled over during the Vijayanagar period are Sangama, Salva, Tuluva, and Arabido dynasties. So what do we know about Sangama Dynasty? Sangama Dynasty is one of the, we'll look at each individual dynasty in little detail, but to quickly get an idea about them, this entire empire is classified or is seen under the four heads or four dynasties. So of them, the first and the longest reign is by our Sangama kings. Okay, so around 13 kings were there. So for a longer period, Sangamas were the ruling kings of Vijayanagar region. So after them comes, from them takes up the next fellow called as Salva Narasimha, and therefore it's called as the Salva dynasty. From again, Salva is one of the smallest, reign. So it will hardly be for somewhere around some 15 to 20 years. That's it. Okay. So after that, from there, our Tuluva kings will usurp the throne and we'll start seeing the Tuluva dynasty. So Tuluva dynasty is very important for us because our Krishna Deva Raya belongs to the Tuluva dynasty. Okay. So the last one is our Arabido dynasty. And Arabido dynasty, one of the important event that we have to know about is Battle of Rakasa Tangadi or Rakshasa Tangadi. So now 1565, we'll see this battle called as Battle of Talikota or Rakasa Tangadi. So from there, what happens? Our Vijayanagar versus the battle will happen between the two prominent contenders of the Deccan Plateau. One is our Vijayanagar and the other one is our Deccan Sultanates. So who are our Deccan Sultanates? We have 5 sultans. Actually, during the Vijayanagar Empire, this was the region. Okay, so north of Vijayanagar were Bahamani and south of this boundary was our Vijayanagar, right? So with Bahamani disintegration, Bahamanis will see a downfall. Okay, so after the Bahamanis disintegration happens, this entire Bahamani kingdom will be broken into 5 different small, principalities. Okay, so they are called as Deccan Sultanates. Okay, so one will be Ahmednagar and another will be Berar, then comes Bidar, then comes Golconda, and then lastly it is Bijapur. So this Bahamani kingdom disintegrates into 5 smaller sultanates. So that happens. So those sultanates will put up a united fight against our Vijayanagar Empire and Battle of Talikota. So what happens? Vijayanagar loses. Our earlier Ramaraya will fail in the battle, and therefore from there onwards, actually the Vijayanagar Empire lost its glory by 1565. But then it continued. Our Sri Ranga the third continued till 1646. So there were small level kings who were actually operating as feudal lords. Okay. So capital city is Vijayanagar, that is present day Hampi, and Varaha was their royal emblem. That is the boar avatar of Vishnu. We have seen this, right? So, so if you take a look at the important emblems of all our dynasties, Varaha has been the mostly used emblem. Yes, we have seen Varaha as one of the mostly used royal emblems by at least 3 kingdoms so far, right? So, why I say this is how we are mostly influenced by, a Vaishnavite sect, even today. Okay, the temples are largely influenced on that end. Okay. So, what is this Badami in between? Okay, boar. Okay, Gangas. Gangas had elephant as their royal emblem. Okay, moving ahead. So now, before we proceed, we have certain sources as to how we got to know about this much. Like, when we say about Vijayanagar Empire, we are very much proud about Vijayanagar Empire and the glory is so huge that we always wonder that how do we get to know about this particular empire alone in such great detail? Because, we have a lot of sources. Okay, of them, we are going to see some 3 important sources. So one is our foreign visitors and the other one is our local or vernacular literature, and then we are going to see some of the inscriptions. Okay, so sources any day is going to be a very factual area. You can't really innovate or you can't really show your creative side there, but what you can do is the presentation part can get better. That's it. But otherwise, facts are going to be facts. It's one of the factual areas, and you have to remember these. So, especially these foreign visitors, it's actually a prelims topic. Okay, but in one of the exams, we also saw them in the mains. So, from there on, we understood that okay, we have to pay attention on facts in the mains as well. Okay, so this is a classic prelims topic: foreign visitors of Vijayanagar Kingdom. So which visitor came from which country and he came to whose court? I mean, during the time period of which Vijayanagar king he came to court is what the question is all about. Okay, so now we have 6 visitors here. It's not just 6, we have around 9 to 10 visitors. I've given only the important ones in your slide. Okay, so first one is, and it's chronologically arranged here. Okay, Ibn Battuta, Nicolo di Conti, Abdul Razak, Duarte Barbosa, Domingo Paez, and for now, Nunes. So they are chronologically arranged, which you will see through the dates. Okay, so when you copy this slide, please make sure that you write down the dates. But I'm pretty sure that you can't reproduce this in the exams, and it's absolutely fine. But then why do you have to copy these dates? To develop a context when you're actually writing about these people. So when you pass through this particular, for now Nunes 1534 to 37, you should understand that okay, we are in our Tulwa dynasty. Okay, so if you are passing through one of the Abdul Razak, you should know that we are still in Sangama. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, so you should really need, I mean, you have to pay attention to these dates primarily to get the context. Otherwise, reproducing, I don't know how well how well you guys are good at dates, but otherwise it's not really necessary to reproduce the dates. So don't panic, it's fine. So first one is our Ibn Battuta. He's a Moroccan traveler, came to Vijayanagar during the reign of Arihara the First. Arihara, again a Sangama ruler, one of the most important ruler of Sangama Dynasty in Vijayanagar Empire, because he is the one who consolidates the neighboring principalities to form this Vijayanagar Empire. Okay, then comes our Niccolo di Conti, a Venetian traveler from Venice, visited the Devaraya II court. He gives a comprehensive account on Vijayanagar. So Devaraya II is also one of the important king for our Sangama dynasty. Okay, very important guy. Then comes Abdul Razak, a Persian traveler, again visited. See, actually, a lot of people visit during Devaraya II and also during the Krishna Devaraya. So both of these are little important when it comes to visitors. Okay. And then what does Abdul Razak say? He gives a vivid account of Vijayanagar city. He describes the wealth and luxurious life of king and the nobles. Abdul Razak has told in one of the chronicles, I mean in one of his pages of description, he's told that the Mysore king had 40,000 elephants. Okay, so such is the wealth and glory of our Vijayanagar kings, he would say, but not really corroborated by our archaeological evidences. Okay, next comes our Duarte Barbosa, 500 to 516, a Portuguese traveler. Look at this, 1500 to 1516. So in modern Indian history, you will understand that, around 1500 times, 1498, that is when our Vasco da Gama comes in. So 1500 onwards is where you will start seeing the Portuguese people coming into India. Therefore, Duarte Barbosa is again a Portuguese traveler. So he visits during Krishnadeva time. He gives a valuable narrative of government and people of Vijayanagar. Government and people means, so he gives about this guy Barbosa has spoken about the structure of administration. Okay, so how the punishments were given, inflicted by the king for any kind of crime in the city, he is given on those areas, and also the setup of the court is given by Barbosa. Then comes our Domingo Paez. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, these are the foreign visitors who gave the brief description of Vijayanagar kingdom. Okay. So, moving ahead, the local vernacular literature. See, actually, when it comes to these areas, I would, strongly suggest you guys to stick only to those things that, we are being discussed in the class and in the handout. Okay. In the handout, you will have some more information. And again, you can restrict yourself only to those, because when you go to exam finally, these things itself would be like so much more than sufficient for you to write a very good answer. You just have to know how to manage these things to put up in your paper. Okay, so don't get excited by adding more and more dump to your notes or to your repository, because they might become very, very bulky and you would not be able to pay even like you would not be able to revise well. Okay, so therefore, when it comes to factual areas, especially visitors, literature part and all, just restrict yourself to 5 to 10 sources, 5 to 10 works or 5 to 10 names. So that is more than sufficient for you to write a very good answer. Okay, so prelims, I any day would suggest to go for like, vast coverage, because it helps. Like, if you can answer at least one question extra by reading more, it is any day beneficial. But in mains, restrict your source to very, basic ones, and then minimum sources and maximum reading. So that is when you will be able to write very good answers. Okay. So moving ahead, A Forgotten Empire is a work written by our Robert Sewell. This is again about our Vijayanagar Empire. So we get to know a lot about how the Vijayanagar Empire was administered by our Robert Sewell's work. Okay, and then comes Amukta Malyadam. This is a Telugu work by our K.D. Raya. It talks about the polity of Vijayanagar Empire. So what do I mean when I say polity of Vijayanagar Empire? The governance part. Okay, so what is the administrative structure? How the taxes are being collected, how the taxes are being further redistributed for the welfare of the people, and how there is no any chaos, and all those things are given in our Amukta Malladam of our K.D. Raya. Then another important person called as Allasani Peddanna. So this person is one of the Ashtadigajas of our Krishna Deva Raya. Okay, so Krishna Deva Raya had 8 poets in his court, important poets, right? So of them, the most important person is Allasani Peddanna. So he has written a work called as Manu Charitamu. So in this work, he talks about the social system that existed during the Vijayanagar Empire. He also gives a brief description of caste system. So actually, one of the very interesting feature of this Manu Charitam is that he does not give any detail of this class called as Kshatriya class. So actually, when we say caste system or Varna system, we would be thinking about the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra classification, right? But in Manu Charitama or Allasani Peddanna does not describe about this Kshatriya class. So that means that it clearly shows in the nature of governance. Like, you would not see anywhere our Vodayars going or waging a war against any particular principality in the neighborhood. Okay, we are not people who are, we are not a type of fighting clan. Okay, like we have seen in our northern India, like when we were doing ancient India part, all Rajputs or Maratha, they were all actually fighting clans. Okay, princely states, like belonging to Kshatriya clan. Okay, but here you do not see that lineage being sought by our Vodayar family or Vodayar dynasty. So that is one thing that we clearly get to know through Allasani Peddana's Manu Charitamu. Okay, then comes our Gangambika's Madura Vijayam. So Gangambika writes this work as an eulogy for her husband's conquest of Sultanate of Madurai. Actually, Bukka the first would be the king. Our Kampana Raya would be the Kumara Kampana Raya ante karitivi. Okay, he is the son of our Bukka Raya the first, Bukka the first. Okay, so Kampana on the command of Bukka the first will we will direct a conquest of Sultanate of Madurai, and they will emerge successful. So for that, she writes this work called as Madura Vijayam in commemoration of her husband's victory over Madurai. Okay, Madurai Sultanates. Then comes our Gangadhara's Gangadasa Pradapa Vilasam. In this, we get to know about the siege of Vijayanagar by Bahamanis and the Gajapatis of Odisha after the death of Devaraya II. So how our Ganga's rule extended over Vijayanagar is what we see in this particular work of Gangadhara. And then comes our Rajanatha Dindima's Salva Bhyudayam. It's a brief description of our Salva Dynasty. Okay, Salva Bhyudayam by Rajanatha Dindima. Salva Dynasty's work it is. Okay, so through these many works, we get to know about what kind of a kingdom existed under our Vijayanagar Empire. Any doubts in this? Just copy paste the work and keep them safe in your notes. It's important to reproduce to write good answers. Moving ahead, archaeological sources. So we have seen our foreign visits, and then we have seen our local literature or vernacular literature. Now we are going to take a look at our archaeological sources. Are these also in the chronological order? No. Definitely not. But yeah, you see a chronological order here. Yes. But that particular thing is not really necessary to strike it here, I guess. But however, they are very much in a chronological order only. See, Kampanaraya's conquest, and then Gangas, and then Salva. Yeah, it's very much in the chronological order only. Okay. So moving ahead, archaeological sources. Yes, inscriptions and coinage are the two places where we get to know about Vijayanagar Empire. Okay, so this is like very much factual. There is nothing to explain as such. Just make sure that you write these, so that if there is a question to elaborate on the sources of Vijayanagar Empire, it's again very important, because we how do we believe that this is such a vibrant, or this is such a very prosperous kingdom or dynasty or empire. So these are the facts that support our claim that Vijayanagar Empire was one of the important empire during the time period. Okay, so medieval Indian time Vijayanagar was important anta heladeke we need these supporting facts. Okay, so first one is Bagepalli copper plate, and again Bagepalli far off. Okay, so we had our Vijayanagar Empire till Penukanda, Andhra Pradesh Vargu, Namma Vijayanagar Empire had expanded. Okay, so you have to remember this. You can't forget that. Okay, so Bagepalli copper plate gives about Arihara the first achievements. Then Bitragunta, grant of Sangama the second, gives genealogy of 5 Sangama brothers who laid the foundation of Vijayanagar Empire. 5 Sangama brothers are the first 5 Sangama brothers. Okay. So Arihara, Bukka, then you have 3 more successors followed by them. So this Bitragunta grant of Sangama II talks about those 5 kings. Okay, and then Chennaraya Pattina grant of Arihara II talks about Bukka the first's conquests. Then Srirangam copper plate talks about the achievements of Devaraya II. And then Devulapalli copper plate gives genealogy of Salva Dynasty. Just copy paste and keep it. That's it. Okay. Kampana Marappa. Okay. Kumara Kampana. Is it not the Bukka the second? The third? No, not that early. Yeah. Okay. Then comes our coinage, Varahas or gold coins of Vijayanagar rulers. So it's important that, okay, now all of you pay attention here. Now there is a term called as Varaha. Okay, so now in our ancient history, there is a confusion. The confusion is that in each one of the dynasty, there is a term they used to call, or they used to define gold coins or silver coins. Okay, so ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ನಿಷ್ಕಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ. Nishka means silver coins. Okay, in some places they would have used varahas. Varahas means gold coins. Okay, so in the material also, whenever you come across these terminologies, make sure that you pay attention to the metal being used for that particular coin. So immediately when you see the term of the coins, you will see that whether it's gold or silver anta. So please make sure that you notice that distinction. Okay, you know that it is a currency coin, but then what metal, it's important because prelims alli direct agi athara questions keltare. Okay, so varahas are nothing but the gold coins of Vijayanagar rulers. It contains the figures of Hindu deities and animals like bull, elephant, and Gandaberunda. Moving ahead, our Sangama Dynasty, 1336 to 1485. So what do we know about these? So we know that Arihara and Bukka